today's episode of the Habitz Podcast, we've got Johnny Walker from Get Found, Get Hired, and he'll be sharing with us his tips for executive candidates to find their next position. So thanks for joining us, Johnny. There'll be some people tuning in and they would like to know what qualifies you to be our guest expert when it comes to finding your next executive role.
Well, I help senior and executive job seekers get their ideal job faster, which is critical right now, for more money, which is useful right now, without even having to sell themselves, and that's through digital marketing, which I'm an award winner at, so that's helpful. Prior to that, I was 15 years in executive search, and that's pretty much my entire life is helping six-figure earners. That's all I've done. You can't get a qualification in job-seeking coaching. There isn't one. But what you can do is go out there and do it and just let the work speak for yourself. And there are hundreds of testimonials on my LinkedIn profile, so you can look me up and see whether or not I'm qualified enough for you there.
So commonly when people come to you and ask for your help, what do you see that they get wrong?
So I said that it's kind of an attitude that people will talk about themselves because that's what they know. So they'll talk about their skills, they'll talk about their knowledge, they'll talk about their qualifications, they'll talk about their experience, and generally bore the shit out of you with all of that stuff, which no hiring manager cares about. What they care about is the results of that. So rather than tell them about the ingredients of what you do, tell them about the results. So do you help an organization's revenues go up by whatever it is you do? Maybe you're in product, maybe you're in sales, maybe you're in marketing. The output of what you do is revenue. Maybe you help the costs go down. Maybe you're in finance, maybe you're in IT. But if the costs are going down as a result of what you do, that would be a pretty useful thing to mention rather than banging on about the fact you know widget 2.0. If you're perhaps in the middle of the business, then maybe you help me to get the risk of something. So maybe we made fewer regulatory breaches or fewer health and safety breaches or whatever the risk was, fewer financial risk, fraud breaches. If you make those things less, then say that rather than talk to me about your qualifications, which is what most finance people will do.
So do you think they do that? Obviously, you deal with like executives and six-figure candidates. Do you think that's because traditionally they've been in that role for so long, they kind of forget?
I think there's two things to that. First of all is that if you're a lady or gentleman of a certain age, and I am, I think you're younger than the cut-off point for this, but if you're around 38 or 40 and below, then the internet's been around your entire working life. So intuitively, you understand you have to kind of market yourself out there somehow, that the online platforms existed. If you're over that age, there was a period in your career where the internet just didn't exist. And so you had to sell yourself. Hi, I'm great, here's my CV, hire me. It was a pitch. Whereas if you're now in the middle of your career, 45, 55, and you're on over £100,000 a year, you haven't picked up that market yourself skill because it wasn't around to start with, so you just don't know it.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is that people just are more comfortable speaking about what they know, which is what they do on a day-to-day basis, rather than perhaps the medium picture or the longer-term picture, which is why they do it. What was the output? I'm sat in my cubicle, I'm cranking the mangle. It goes on to the next stage and I forget about it. But at the end of this process, costs go down or revenues go up or risks get mitigated. And that's what the hiring manager is bothered by today. That's why the vacancy exists. So talk to them about that, which is kind of the ability to see the world through the other person's eyes. It's empathy, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about later. But it's just, trying to get a perspective on life that's not all about you, it's about the other person.
So talking about results and less about yourself and the ingredients. And you also mentioned that they're not used to being on the internet in terms of the early part of their career. And you mentioned digital marketing. So do you think they don't know how to market themselves in the right way as well?
Yeah, I think it's intuitive in people who are sort of, your age and younger, and it's not intuitive in my age group at all because it just didn't exist. So we forget that there is an entire digital world out there, which if you're not present on, you can't be found on it. And if you are present on it, you've got to be really compelling because there's a load of other people on it too. And if you don't have those skills in your toolkit, then as a job seeker, you're on the back foot a bit. And another thing I see commonly, which you would say is perhaps a bad habit, try not to criticize two people when they're job seeking, but what I think is that they've got that little green swoosh around their profile pic on LinkedIn, announcing that they're open to work or open to new opportunities, I think is the hashtag ONO. And I think outing yourself as a job seeker, as someone who's out of work, is neither here nor there to the hiring manager. They don't care. It's not their problem.
Would you argue that might weaken your position? Because
I don't know that it does. I think it's just irrelevant. As a hiring manager, if I woke up in the morning stressed about a problem I've got, I want the revenues to go up, I want the cost to go down, I want some risk to happen less in my business, and the person I'm going to hire isn't going to be more or less attractive to me because they're currently in or out of work. It's just not a criteria for me. I don't care. What I care about is can they solve my problem? But here's the thing. Most of the 700 million members of LinkedIn pay nothing for their LinkedIn account. It's a free account. But a small percentage pay 50, 70 quid a month. And a healthy chunk of the people who pay are recruiters. So if LinkedIn can persuade you to put a little green swoosh around you saying, I'm immediately available, some recruiters, not all, but some recruiters will go, ooh, lovely, because I get my recruitment fee faster when people don't have a notice period to serve.
Ah, I see.
And so LinkedIn can help that section of the recruitment industry pick up their fees faster. Nice, because it's those recruiters that pay LinkedIn money for their monthly memberships, and appear to do something lovely for the job seekers, which actually is getting in the way of another message, which is much more important to the hiring manager, which is, how much can you help me? Rather than the fact you're out of work, which I don't care about. So for me, I think that LinkedIn have engaged in, and the word I used, so I may as well repeat it because it's out there in public now, is the most disgusting piece of virtual signaling I've ever seen by a large corporation in the middle of a pandemic. I think if you're going to help job seekers, do something for them, but they didn't. They were helping the people who pay them money, which, you know.
So if I was a senior or executive job seeker looking to amplify my job seeking and performance, what are some of the good habits I should be doing to make that happen?
I think first things first is that job seeking isn't some random happenstance process. Get a system, okay? For me, I run a program, and I'll give you the sort of 7 steps in that program, but you know, it's not a definitive answer in the sense that you could do something else, but just have a system, I think, is the first thing I'd say. That first of all is, how do you identify what your ideal job is? A lot of people will just apply for a job because it's in front of them, rather than thinking, is that really for me? So what's your ideal job? How do I articulate that really well so that people who've got that job can come and find me? Most people just, again, will talk about, love to meet you, Mike, what do you do? And you'll bore me to death with what you do, rather than how you help me and to what scale you help me, which is more interesting. So get a message. I would say that being visible and compelling with the areas that a hiring manager will try and find you, which is going to be on a CV board, not so much for 6-figure job seekers, but for a lot of other people who are on less money, for sure. LinkedIn profile. Get that keyword SEO profiled and do the other things that are necessary on your LinkedIn profile to make it visible and compelling. You can improve how your personal network performs. That's a huge one. If you're a very senior person, you're most likely to get your job through your personal network. And most people's conversation with their personal network is, hi, you know me, Mike, I'm out of work. If you see anything going at your place, can you let me know? You're not going to. Yeah. Right? Because you're not going into HR and asking them about vacancies, because that's the room they fire people from, and it's a tricky market right now. So you're not going to go anywhere near that. I send you my CV. It just, at best, it'll end up on your desktop. At worst, it will go in the bin. So that's the wrong conversation to have. There's a better conversation to be had. And also, look, I'm going to talk a little bit about recruiters, but not too much because I'll swear otherwise. But these guys, young men with directional hair who throw CVs around like mud for a living, are not people you want in your life. But of course, there are 1 or 2 amazing recruiters out there. Your job is to find them and make sure they treat you as their number 1 candidate. So those are the 4 places a hiring manager will go looking for you: on a CV board, on LinkedIn, in their network, which hopefully is also your network, and through their recruiters. And if you can get those 4 channels optimized, then that's a huge step for you. I think for me, the second most important habit any job seeker can have, and certainly a senior job seeker, is to spin around what I was talking about earlier, where you talk about yourself a lot, which is the wrong thing to do. Instead, talk about what's in it for the hiring manager and how much is in it for the hiring manager. So if you're someone whose job activities on a day-to-day basis eventually make a contribution towards revenues going up, then put that at the start of your sentence. I help revenues go up. And then the second thing comes out your mouth must answer the question, how much? Because they're going to ask. If you help costs go down, they're going to ask how much. If you make revenues go up, they're going to ask how much. If you mitigate the risks in a business, they're going to ask how much less. Yeah. So quantify the first part. So I help revenues go up by X millions by doing, and then tell me all the stuff you were going to in the first place, all that process information. So that's the first thing I would say is get that message in the right order of what's in it for the hiring manager, how much is in it for the hiring manager, and then how. And it's the how bit that everyone's got on the tip of their tongue, but it should come third, because the hiring manager really wants the first 2 bits, and you hardly ever give it to them. Yeah,
it's in a strange way, really, by putting it in that order, they're probably not going to be scrutinising it quite so much at the end anyway, are they? Because they're thinking...
They hardly do. At a very senior level, most people are deemed to know what they're doing anyway.
Yeah.
So you don't really care about the how, because you trust that they know that bit, but they're not going to hire you in the first place unless you tell them about the why and the how much. Lastly, I'd say to you that if you're really serious about your career, really serious about improving your job seeking, look at every aspect of your job seeking journey, your job seeking process, whatever you want to call it, but look at it through the eyes of the hiring manager. I know I've talked about this already in terms of, what do they want and how much do they want before you tell them how you do it. But I talk about everything now. Your LinkedIn profile. What does a hiring manager want to see on your LinkedIn profile? Think about that rather than what you want to say. What does it need to be on your CV? Do they want a long list of all your qualifications, or they just want to hear about the results? Think about that. What are you telling them? And is it what they want to hear? I think most people's CVs are written from the writer's perspective rather than the reader's perspective, which is obviously a colossal error.
We're doing that at the moment. We're hiring for someone at the moment, and I'm amazed at how bad some of the CVs are. It's literally, so we're looking for an animator and video editor, and it'll start with, I am a financial advisor, is the top thing that they're telling us about. And then it turns out that they do animation as a side project. Like, we don't tell us that bit first, take out the bits that are not relevant, but also we ask 4 questions on our application. Just answer them questions in your CV. That's it.
So let's quickly role play this. This will be really interesting. What's the benefit of hiring this person for this business? What are they going to do for you?
So they're going to create animations, 2D animations.
And what's the benefit of doing those animations to this business? Why bother with them?
Will create us more money, help us get through.
So it's a revenue generating function. Exactly. It contributes to that. It's not, there's to be sales and marketing involved as well, but it's going to be a contributor to helping the revenues go up. So if an animator came in and said, I will contribute to your revenues going up by 10% by producing animations that are blah, 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 that person's super interesting to you because the first 2 things they said, which is why you want them to do it. The how is through animation, but the why is revenue, and the how much is whatever it is.
It's
you lead with those
crazy.
2 things, you win.
But it blows my mind how it's almost not hard. Like, don't apply for 300 jobs today. Just go and find, like you said, the 3 or 4, and then just tailor what you're saying to the questions that they're asking you. Because really, the job spec is a list of, we want you to be able to do this. Can you do X, Y, Z? So just tell us about how you do them things, and you're more than likely going to be sat in the office talking to us. So say if I am an executive job seeker now, or I am a senior candidate and I'm looking to land that next role with a company that I'd love to work for, where could I find you, or where could you help me?
So really, really simple. You jump onto LinkedIn right now and look at the hashtag #GetFoundGetHired. There's about 2 years worth of free content on there you can consume for nothing. I've also got an ebook out which people can get hold of if they direct message me on LinkedIn, and if I twist your arm, maybe we'll get that link out to your audience. But I think the easiest thing to do is, because there's a lot of snake oil and bullshit out there in coaching land, particularly online. You never know whether anybody's any good. I'm going to pat myself a little bit on the back here. I am the only job-seeking coach that I know of, and I've been asking everybody I speak to for a year, including on all my live shows, everybody in the audience, is anybody out there who does this? I'm the only one I know of that specializes in a 6-figure audience, who gives a 100% money-back guarantee, and has got over 100 testimonials from people on over 100 grand, and will allow you to try before you buy. 5 days with me, free. The next program's on January the 11th, so you can just dive in, completely gratis, and at the end of that program, if you want to take what you've learned and just run with it, on me. And if you want to stick around and say, could you continue to work with me, Johnny, having discovered how bloody amazing I am, then of course I'm going to ask you for money for that. That's paid work. But 5 days, try before you buy. I think January the 11th. Now, there's a link for that. We'll get it out somehow.
So thanks to Johnny for sharing with us his good habits when it comes to landing your next executive role. If you've had any success while job seeking recently, let us know in the usual places and join us next time for some more Habitz Podcast.